The Silent Night on Blackthorn Hill. A group of friends, David, Rachel, and Ben, decided to camp at Blackthorn Hill, a remote area in the Appalachian Mountains, known for its isolation and stunning views. The hike to the top was challenging, but the friends were experienced and eager for an adventure. They planned to spend the weekend away from the distractions of modern life, with nothing but the stars above and the wilderness around them. The first night was uneventful, with the friends enjoying the clear skies and cool breeze. However, as the night deepened, an eerie silence settled over the hill. There were no sounds of crickets or rustling leaves, just a profound and natural stillness. The quiet was so intense that even their whispers seemed too loud. Rachel, the most superstitious of the group, began to feel uneasy. She mentioned a local legend she had read about, how the spirits of those who had died on the hill were said to roam the area, silencing the night with their presence. David and Ben laughed it off, teasing her for being scared of ghost stories. But as the hours passed, the silence became more oppressive. Suddenly, Ben noticed something strange. The fire, which had been crackling steadily, was now burning without a sound. No crackling of wood, no hissing of embers, just a silent, flickering flame. The friends exchanged nervous glances, realizing that something was very wrong. Then they saw it, a figure standing at the edge of their campsite, barely visible in the dim light. It was tall and shadowy, with indistinct features, but its presence was palpable. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound, just stood there, watching, terrified. David grabbed a flashlight and shone it towards the figure, but it revealed nothing. The figure had disappeared as silently as it had appeared. Rachel insisted they leave immediately, but the path down the hill was treacherous in the dark, and they decided to wait until dawn. Throughout the night, the figure returned several times, each time closer to the camp. The friends were paralyzed with fear, unable to sleep, their hearts pounding in their chests. But the silence remained unbroken, amplifying their terror. At dawn, they packed up and hurried down the hill, but the silence followed them. Even the forest seemed devoid of life, no birds, no animals, nothing but the oppressive quiet. When they finally reached the bottom, the silence lifted, replaced by the normal sounds of the forest. Shaken, they vowed never to return to Blackthorn Hill, but the silence of that night haunted them, and they couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed them back. Weeks later, Rachel woke up in the middle of the night to find her room eerily silent. No hum of the fan, no distant sounds of the city, and at the foot of her bed, she saw the same shadowy figure silently watching her. The Haunted Cabin by the Lake. A group of 5 friends, Samantha, Chris, Laura, Jake, and Emily, planned a camping trip by an isolated lake deep in the woods. They had heard of an old, abandoned cabin nearby and decided to use it as their base camp. The cabin was rumored to be haunted, but they dismissed the stories as just local legends meant to scare off TERESPASSERS. When they arrived, the cabin was more dilapidated than they expected, but it was still standing. The windows were broken, and the door creaked ominously as they pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of damp wood, but there was nothing overtly sinister about it, just the remains of a place long forgotten. The first night, they gathered around a fire outside the cabin, roasting marshmallows and telling ghost stories. As the night wore on, Chris suggested they explore the cabin's attic, which had been locked from the outside. With some effort, they pried the door open and climbed up the rickety stairs in the attic. They found old furniture covered in dust and cobwebs, but there was something else: an old, weathered diary lying on a small table. Curious, Samantha picked it up and began to read aloud. The diary belonged to a girl named Eliza, who had lived in the cabin with her family many years ago. The entries were normal at first, detailing her life in the woods, but they grew darker as she described strange noises at night and the feeling of being watched. The last entry was particularly disturbing. Eliza wrote about a presence in the cabin, something that wasn't human, something that wanted her to stay. The entry ended abruptly, with the final word smeared as if written in haste: "It's here." Suddenly, the temperature in the attic dropped, and the air became heavy with the scent of decay. The friends heard a soft, shuffling noise coming from the dark corner of the attic. A cold wind blew through the broken window, extinguishing the candle they had brought with them. Panic set in as they fumbled to get down the stairs. As they descended, they heard footsteps behind them, but when they turned around, no one was there. They rushed outside, only to find that the fire had gone out and the forest around them was deathly still. Throughout the night, they heard scratching on the cabin walls and faint whispers, as if someone or something was trying to communicate with them. In the early hours of the morning, they packed their things and left, too scared to stay another night. As they drove away, Emily realized she had left the diary in the cabin, but no one wanted to go back for it. Later, as they recounted the events of the night, they noticed something strange. The last picture they took at the cabin, taken just before they left, showed a shadowy figure standing in the attic window, watching them. The Vanishing Hiker. A group of four friends, Megan, Tyler, Zoe, and Ryan, decided to go on a weekend hiking trip in the Cascade Mountains. They had heard about a trail that led to a beautiful, secluded waterfall, perfect for camping. The trail was difficult to find, known only to a few seasoned hikers, and that's what made it so appealing. The first day of hiking was uneventful, and they found the trail without much trouble. They hiked for hours, enjoying the fresh air and the stunning views, until they reached the waterfall just before sunset. It was everything they had hoped for: tall, majestic, and completely isolated. They set up camp nearby, looking forward to a night under the stars. As night fell, they built a fire and settled in for the evening. But as they sat around the fire, they noticed something strange: a distant, flickering light deep in the forest, far off the trail. It was too far to be another campsite, and it seemed to be moving slowly, as if someone was walking with a lantern. Curious, Ryan suggested they check it out, thinking it might be another hiker in need of help. But the others were hesitant, feeling uneasy about the light. After some debate, they decided to stay put and watch it from a distance. As the night wore on, the light grew closer, moving steadily towards them. But no matter how close it got, they couldn't see who or what was carrying it. Finally, as it seemed to reach the edge of their campsite, the light suddenly vanished, leaving them in darkness, nervous but trying to stay calm. They decided to get some sleep. But in the middle of the night, Megan woke up to find Ryan's tent empty. Panicking, she woke the others, and they searched the campsite. But Ryan was nowhere to be found. His gear was still there, and there were no signs of a struggle, just his empty tent and the unsettling quiet of the forest. As dawn broke, they decided to search for him, following the trail back the way they came. But after hours of searching, they found no trace of Ryan. Desperate, they returned to the campsite, hoping he had somehow found his way back. But when they arrived, they found something horrifying: Ryan's hiking boots, neatly placed by the extinguished fire, with no sign of him anywhere. Frightened and confused, they decided to head back to civilization and report Ryan's disappearance. But as they began to pack up, Megan found something chilling in her backpack: a small, folded piece of paper that hadn't been there before. Written in Ryan's handwriting were the words, "Don't follow the light, terrify." They abandoned the campsite and made their way back to the trailhead as quickly as possible. When they finally reached safety and reported what had happened, search teams were sent out to look for Ryan, but he was never found. The trail to the waterfall was later closed off to the public, with local authorities citing unexplained dangers as the reason. To this day, no one knows what happened to Ryan, but those who dare to venture near the waterfall at night claim to see a flickering light in the distance and hear faint, desperate whispers warning them to stay away.